Hello. I want you all to imagine that it's 1 in the morning and you are craving some donuts. Lucky for you, you live down the street from a donut shop that's open 24 hours. So you head out on your way to the donut shop. Then you are perhaps surprised or scared because you see some police car lights approaching you. Now, the police officer may ask questions about your whereabouts. You may be feeling a little safe. You may be feeling afraid, worried. You really don't know what's happening until the officer tells you. On your way to donuts, you're being asked all kinds of questions. There was a call from a community resident worried about potential sex work happening. This transgender woman was perceived as looking for clients as she was on her way to get donuts. This is an experience that often happens to many people, especially LGBT folks. Did you know that last year in 2021, it was the deadliest year on record for transgender and non-binary people in the United States, with at least 51 transgender or gender nonconforming people fatally shot or killed by other violent means. Now, unfortunately, this number is likely much higher. The deaths of transgender and gender nonconforming people are often underreported, and the victims themselves are often misgendered. Although often victims of violence, transgender women have repeatedly shared that they are either unsure of how to report victimization or unwilling to engage with law enforcement officers. They usually cite past negative experiences lived and or witnessed as reasons. Now you may ask yourself why. Why don't they report? Some of you can imagine some of these reasons. Many transgender women do not feel safe from police nor protected by law enforcement. Hence, such acts of violence are usually not reported due to the negative experiences with law enforcement. These can be, for example, being profiled as doing sex work and looking for clients when they're just carrying out their daily activities. And also to avoid re-victimization. For example, in a qualitative study, transgender person said, I got raped at 18 because they wanted to set me straight. I went to the police and the police said to me, he who lays with dogs should expect to get fleas. This is discriminatory and abusive treatment that some people face when seeking assistance. So, who are you gonna call? If not 911 when you need help. This was a call to action. A call to action from Latina transgender women in Los Angeles. I've been very fortunate to respond to these calls to action, specifically this one. I've been able to build alliances with police departments to talk about that trust that is missing, to build alliances with law enforcement, some which have been invested and active around LGBT rights and safety. For example, the Los Angeles Police Department, aka LAPD, works closely with an LGBT work group and with the Los Angeles Transgender Advisory Council, a group that was established in the city, by the city in 2016. The time is now. It is possible for transgender people to work alongside police. There are some branches that are barely getting the work started, but they're getting there. In one of my studies, I asked one of my participants, what were her general experiences with police? And I want to share the lived experience of a 46-year-old Mexican Latina transgender woman who said, I have lost trust. I feel like they're not going to help. They don't arrive on time, and I feel discriminated because they see I am transgender. And see, we're not all the same. A lot of police officers think that a lot of transgenders are on drugs and crazy and the worst. And not all transgender women are the same. I am a transgender woman that isn't a sex worker. I have a clean record. I like to work and study. I treat people with respect, but I don't feel safe. If I call the police, I feel like they won't help me because of my identity and gender. I don't have trust anymore. The experiences that I have had, I feel sad about them, but I would like for all police departments to take into account everyone, all cases, because the harm that is done is so big that we are victims of violence and discrimination from both police officers and the aggressors who attack us and give us psychological harm. Thank you for sharing your lived experiences with me and for calling us to action. This is something that we have seen at a national level, not just with transgender women. So now that you have heard, as social workers, as researchers, want to inform you and remind you, maybe you know, that we are in a movement. But what are we doing? Progress is great. Progress is great. It may be slow, but progress is progress. Hope to get there faster. As you heard earlier, I have a 5-year-old son, and I can picture him being surprised years later as he will learn our history and note our progress. I can hear him saying, "What, Mom? People couldn't use the same restrooms? What, Mom? People of the same sex who were in love could not marry each other? Back in your days, Mom?" And it reminds me of when I was learning about movements. And I was also surprised that not that long ago, people could not drink from the same water fountains. People could not go to the same schools. Progress is progress. The time is now. So I invite you to think about that. In 2015, June 2015 to be exact, the US Supreme Court struck down all state bans on same-sex marriage, legalized it in all 50 states. This is a movement. It is time. What will you share your role was? I invite you, all of you, to get involved in the transgender rights movement to eliminate discrimination and violence against transgender people regarding housing, employment, public accommodations, education, healthcare. This is an invitation. This is a movement. Thank you.